Good evening, everybody. This is JB's Personal Perspectives. And here tonight, I'm going to let you hear some video from a couple of people that'll be talking about what's going on with Elon Musk and his minions, what they're trying to do as far as tearing down our government. So now I'll let you hear it.
Of injunctions issued against the Trump administration
and
for their
see some
unlawful
of it.
acts. Whether it was the late night Friday order forcing the Treasury Department to stop Elon Musk and Musk's team from getting access to information, also compelling Musk and Musk's team to immediately destroy all of the data they've obtained. That was a big win by attorney generals across the country, led by none other than New York Attorney General Letitia James. She's back. Whether it's Trump-appointed judges like Judge Carl Nichols ruling against the Trump administration on their attempt to just totally fire pretty much everybody from U.S. aid with very little notice, and thus stranding people internationally, potentially killing hundreds of thousands or thousands of people who may not get the medications that they need. An injunction was issued there. Whether it was injunctions related to the FBI, class actions filed by FBI agents against the Department of Justice for trying to out their names to January 6th insurrectionists. Whether it's injunctions like the one issued from the state of Washington on the issue of birthright citizenship, and that birthright citizenship is in the Constitution. Hence, you can't, via executive order, overturn the United States Constitution. Whether it's injunctions emanating out of both Rhode Island and Washington, D.C., to stop Donald Trump's government funding freeze, or whether it's an injunction also in Washington, D.C., to stop Donald Trump's cruel and unusual policy to take trans women in prison, take off their clothes, and throw them in general population in male prison showers. Folks, I'm not making this up. The judge said that is cruel and unusual and absolutely a villainous act to do. Federal judges are standing up, even Trump-appointed judges, Reagan-appointed judges, Democratic-appointed judges. We're seeing that. And as that's happening, the Trump administration is just further trying to tear down our government every single day, tear down the guardrails of law and order, full buyouts to try to push out everybody in the CIA, trying to push out people in the counterterrorism division of the FBI, dismantling the kleptocracy unit, an elite special division within the Department of Justice that seizes Russian oligarch asset used to try to spread disinformation and try to influence and corrupt people in the United States. Is that a shocker that that's one of the first things that the Trump administration tried to dismantle? And also now we're seeing, Elon Musk and his kind of band of misfit, 19 and 23-year-olds trying to do this now at each agency, forcing AGs, civil rights groups to kind of play whack-a-mole here to stop them, identify them. And Musk has literally his team of kids, or they're not kids, they're adults, but they act like kids, sleeping in the government agencies, with their families now, restricting access to government workers. I mean, this is about we the people. Who are these oligarchs literally cooing in our buildings that belong to we the people? Well, the law is fighting back. This is what we said was going to happen with AGs and lawyers stepping up in this time. It means a lot for us to cover here on Legal AF as well. Let's bring in Michael Popak. Mr. Popak, how are you doing, sir, on this weekend?
Barely sleeping with what's happening with the winning that the rule of law is doing against the Trump administration. 41 cases in 18 days. And so far, the track record is 11 wins and 2 temporary setbacks for the rule of law against the Trump administration. That's those are Hall of Fame numbers right there. I'll never tire of that kind of winning. The 41 cases are all in the right places. They're in the original colonies of the United States, from Rhode Island down to New Jersey. They're in the West Coast, from California up to Washington, in D.C., and multiply filed on major issues that Donald Trump has put front and center in front of the American voter and the American people because of his these all stem from his executive orders, most of them signed on the 20th of January on day one. So if you're doing the scorecard at home, we're going to cover a lot of these today. You've got just on the temporary restraining order, the injunction tsunami that you let off with, we had two about birthright citizenship, his attempt to rip out the heart of the Constitution when it comes to citizenship by executive order. We have two about cutting off the spigot in a mean-spirited, inhumane way of federal funding to the states and to not-for-profits. That's separate from the TRO about shutting off $60 billion of aid across the world to the disadvantaged, which also promotes our business interest and our diplomacy. Again, all done without giving anybody warning, not even saying like a sundowning, like, well, 6 months from now or 3 months from now or a year from now. No, overnight, so that people's lives are literally turned upside down, as is the American economy. So we got a couple of TROs about federal funding, one about the inhumanity and depravity of putting transgender women in male population jails. We've got two temporary restraining orders blocking some version of Elon Musk and Doge. We've got one temporary restraining order preventing the firing of government employees with the Fork memo, which we'll talk about more. We've got a temporary restraining order arising out of two FBI agent cases about their being decapitated and thrown out of their positions. We've got one involving U.S. aid that you touched on, issued by a lot of them, even issued by Trump judges like Carl Nichols. We got two separate, that's temporary restraining orders. Then we got two preliminary injunctions, which is the next level, soon to be three preliminary injunctions concerning two on birthright citizenship and one I'm sure it's going to be handed down on Friday in New York about Elon Musk rummaging around our privacy, personal information, financial information, health information, all housed on Treasury Department servers. The Trump side has only gotten, in their Department of Justice, has only gotten two minor wins out of those cases. So it's 11-2, folks, in favor. The two losses are relatively minor. One was about the Office of Personnel Management and its server, and whether Elon Musk again could access it. And so Randolph Moss, a judge, denied the TRO for now. And another one about Doge had a standing issue as it was being raised by labor unions, and which is another element I want to continue to talk about here on Legal AF, is that who are the groups that are obtaining these wins? We know the judges are, but who are the groups that are leading the charge that we're supporting? It is the attorneys general in 22 states, which are Democratic. It is labor unions who are representing, some of which who didn't defend Biden or Kamala Harris or support them, are now stepping up for their federal workers who are being canned left and right, or the issues related to that. So you got unions joining together with attorneys generals, joining together with the ACLU and the NAACP and other brand new groups that were just created, like Norm Eison's Democracy Forward group, who was just created since the election almost, or since the end of the campaign, to do what we're doing now. This is exactly what you and I hoped would happen, but I'm seeing results that are even greater than I thought. As I told people, as a historical context, first Trump administration, 1,000 cases or so were filed by some of these same groups, and they were 80% winning percentage, but because Donald Trump has gotten more unhinged and more outrageous and has decided that what the lesson that he learned from the Supreme Court decisions that benefited him in the immunity decisions and on the ballot in the criminal law area, this has empowered him in his mind. The lesson he learned is, I can try anything, and I'm going to do anything as the executive branch to violate the separation of power, to violate the Administrative Procedures Act, to violate the First Amendment, to violate the Take Care Clause of the Constitution. So we're going to be, you and I don't want people to think it's like a repeat episode or a repeat hot take, but you're going to hear a lot of the following over the course of the next 4 years. Breaking news, a temporary restraining order, Trump administration under the Administrative Procedures Act, the Constitution, and First Amendment, and these groups, because we are now averaging, by my math, 18 days and 41 cases, almost 3 cases a day, which is about what I said it would be. And I don't think it's just the first 18 days. I think we're going to have 3 cases a day for the whole more than 1,200, or so, what is it, 4 times 3? It's more than 1,400 days of the administration, because it's going to be triple what happened in the first administration, because his outrageousness has been empowered and tripled.
When you talk about those 3 cases, by the way, those are like, I guess, the 3 major headline grabbing cases that are kind of being brought as class actions. But like, we could equally mention the fact that one of the members of the National Labor Relations Board, the first black female National Labor Relations Board member who Donald Trump fired, she filed a lawsuit as well, saying that her termination was not for cause, that Donald Trump did not have the right to fire her. So there's even employment actions at the highest level, from appointments like her. You know, Donald Trump also on Friday fired one of the members of the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. Donald Trump didn't like her, a more liberal member, someone who I guess actually wants to enforce FEC laws. Donald Trump fired her. I expect there to be legal action there. The Inspector General's legal action there. Remember, don't forget that story where one of the first actions that Donald Trump and his regime, we shouldn't call it an administration. We should use the right labels, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about that this is a coup on our government right now, and this is an authoritarian regime. These aren't scandals in the traditional sense that are taking place, right? This is not, I didn't have sex with Lewinsky. This isn't stuff like Iran-Contra, which is bad. You know, the bad scandals, sexual scandals, this is not that. This is the wholesale using playbooks of authoritarians that have been tried, tested, and proven in places like Hungary, Viktor Orban, by Vladimir Putin. It's being utilized in El Salvador. It's being used by Milei in Argentina. Often places with very high poverty rates as well. And this is a playbook that they are following. And so this regime is engaged in a constant unlawful act tsunami as well. And the last place on this battlefield, because Congress, which is controlled by Republicans, spineless MAGAs, they've given up their co-equal branch role. So that was one of the checks, right? So the other check, when you don't have that co-equal branch, are the courts. Now, we know our Supreme Court is compromised. That's a problem. There's 6 right-wing, and then there's 3 liberal. Now, if you want a silver lining in the way the Supreme Court is, you have to look a little bit to Justice John Roberts, who when you have to say that, you're already saying that's kind of a rough hill to fight on. Justice John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, who sided with the liberal judges to not stop Donald Trump's sentencing from taking place. They have indicated, at least through Justice John Roberts' annual report, remember we covered that here? That's why we cover these things, because Justice John Roberts seemed to put in his annual Supreme Court report that the threats of violence, dismantling law and order, not following court orders. He seemed to be talking about Donald Trump, who he gave absolute immunity to, and essentially giving a warning of, hey, we gave you absolute immunity, don't make us look stupid. Well, Donald Trump is the king of making everybody that tries to appease him look stupid, and so that's what we're going to see if that develops. But I'll tell everybody to do this. Go and study Viktor Orban's rise in Hungary. Viktor Orban was once a student protester. He was a liberal guy, and then he changed to become very right-wing. He kind of, why do all the right-wing MAGAs like Viktor Orban? Because he created in Hungary the types of gerrymandering that was then adopted in that laboratory for autocracy here in the United States, where Orban basically, when he took power, gerrymandered the liberal parties out of existence and then basically made it so he doesn't lose elections. He ripped apart all of the institutions in Hungary and started ruling like an authoritarian. That's why, whether it was Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk, why they applaud him so much. I want to share this with you as well, as we try to talk about, these injunctions, the big class action style lawsuits, the individual lawsuits. At its core, what's happening though is, Elon Musk is given free reign on our government. Just think about that. Donald Trump has allowed Elon Musk to go into different agencies, to take your data, to take we the people's data, whether it's access to the $1 trillion transaction payment systems, whether it's medical information, whether it's geological, oceanic information, bank account information, you name it, they go into different departments, and Elon Musk has his own oligarchical business interests as well. Elon Musk's made a lot of his money getting funded by the federal government and then, turning against the federal government, recapturing the federal government now for his own oligarchical purposes. But so what Musk does is he's got his little team of like hackers. And, it was interesting to note that in the New York Attorney General case, in the federal opinion by the judge that was issued on Friday night, he referred to them as hackers and as what took place as hacking of your Social Security, our banking information. So Musk takes these people, they go into these various kind of government agencies. This is what's been reported in the agencies. They live in the agencies. They bring like sleeping bags in the agencies. They show up and then they like torture the government employees. And they tell the government employees, hey, justify your existence. They kind of mock them. They treat them like crap. And they try to kind of push them out, make their lives miserable while gaining access to your data. And now we're learning about the types of character or the lack thereof of these people. And surprise, surprise, Elon Musk, who posts this hateful, misogynistic stuff and has turned Twitter into X, which is now this fascistic, authoritarian hellhole when you actually look at what the type of content that's being flooded there by bots and being pushed and he's reposting as well. One of these people were, very racist, supports eugenics, talks about, how we should never, negative stuff about Indian people and never marrying outside of the race. So I think Trump's chief of staff, Susan Wiles, basically forced some of these, racist Elon people to resign. But then J.D. Vance and Elon said, bring them back in. They're just kids. They're just kids. They made a mistake. Let them get back in. Well, these quote-unquote kids never apologized for what they did, number one. Number two, even if they did, they shouldn't get access to your data or your information. And so I'm just trying to understand this. They're kids when it comes to saying horrific racist things, and then that's okay, and then they should be brought back in, and Trump decrees they get to come back in. But they're adults when it comes to taking your data and having all this. They're so immature, but now they get all of your data. This was at the press conference with Donald Trump, where he was asked about bringing back these Elon Musk thugs to take your data. And just watch how Donald Trump handles the question. Play this clip.
As part of this Doge cost-cutting effort, one of the Doge engineers was fired for some inappropriate posts. The vice president says, bring him back. What do you say?
I don't know about the particular thing, but if the vice president said that, did you say that? I'm with the vice president. Thank you, Peter.
We haven't heard anything from J.D. Vance or being with the vice president, but the vice president does say, bring the racist pro-eugenics person who took who had access to your private information, bring him back. And then Donald Trump's, I got to listen to J.D. Vance. Let's bring him back. Popok, I want to bring you in, and we got to go through all of the cases right now, one by one, the various injunctions. I just wanted to frame it that way. I want to do this, Popok. I'm going to give you the next segment. I talked way too long there. It's an appropriate time to do a quick break. I want to give you the segment, though, talking about AG. Go through the injunctions about the freeze, one by one, explain to people the import. Don't worry, folks. I know I spend a long time talking there, and I got to let Popok. Popok gets the whole next segment. But in addition to getting the next segment, Popok started the Popok Law Firm, and it's crushing it. And Popok, I think it's great work. I know lots of people were asking you, hey, if I've got cases, even cases like if I was in a car accident, if I was sexually harassed at work, if someone in my family suffered a catastrophic injury, you get these messages all the time. You weren't able to help, so you started the Popok firm just to help. You're working with Big Auto, who has top lawyers across the country as well. You want to make sure you get thousands of phone calls since you've announced this, so it's important that you
It's
have
going
it
to
all.
be
But
important
just to tell
information.
people where they can call if they've either been injured in an accident or they have someone that they know and they want the Popok firm. Where do they go?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Everybody's very, very supportive of it. People know that I'm a practicing lawyer for the last 35 years. I was in bigger firms and big firms. You and I litigated cases together and separately and all of that. And I've always gotten a lot of phone calls and contacts and DMs from people about their cases. And it wasn't doing those because we're sort of dedicated here to the Midas Touch Network. And at a certain point, as I've said, I've just decided, all right, people want me to be involved in cases. People want me to help them with their cases. There's a natural fit to do it. But let's be frank, I'm one guy. And I don't have 1,000 people, 1,000 lawyers to work with. And so, I searched around for a good collaborator and knew the guys, the people at Big Auto. And Big Auto has these amazing personal injury and other types of injury damage type lawyers around the country, which kind of gave me instant 50-state presence, if you will, which I think I needed for our type of show and our type of audience, which is in all 50 states and 138 countries. So it was really by demand. I was like, I'm going to set up this firm because people are asking about it and asking for it. And its focus is on all sorts of ways that you can get injured, as you outlined. It could be auto, which is a natural for Big Auto, but they do everything else that we do. Civil rights violations, employment law cases, constitutional, issues. So whatever it is that, you can come to 1-877 POPOC AF, 1-877 POPOC AF, or come hit the website at www.thepopocfirm.com, and I'm all over it. and it's just a way to kind of continue what we started together as a Legal AF audience. And building on that. And we're always very loyal and appreciative to our audience. We thought this is something that they've wanted, and so, I set it up.
Amazing. Everybody hit subscribe right now on our YouTube channel. We're getting close to 4 million subscribers. When we get back, we're going to talk about every one of those injunctions.
Okay, everybody. There you have it. The things that they talked about were very enlightening and very interesting. Well, now it's time for me to go. Until the next time, this is JB Personal Perspectives. I ask you to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And always, hold your head up. This is God's country. Trust me. God is good, and we got to trust and believe in Him, not in these things that Trump is doing. So until the next time, take care.